I share these tools with mental health professionals, and I'm really excited to spend some time with you here today. I would love to make our time together as engaging as possible. So as we're going through the tools and we're experiencing some of them together, I would love for you to put your questions and comments into the chat. And before we move on to the next section, I'm going to hopefully answer those questions the best I can. So I encourage you to engage, for us to experience these really important tools that you're going to be able to use with your clients as you see fit and as you choose. At the very end of the presentation, we're actually going to get into the suicide prevention protocol, and I'm going to show it to you. And I'm going to share a key with you that's going to help the clients that you're assisting break through the core emotional pain that drives suicidal ideation. So that's really one of my biggest purposes here today and in my life, to share that important key with mental health professionals just like you. So I'm excited to get underway. I hope you are too. And again, please remember to dive into the chat. If you have a thought or a question, I would love to hear it. And Susie's going to help me manage that. So let's get rolling. Okay. So the most basic tool that I teach is one that has been certified by the American Institute of Stress in 2012. And I started working on this tool in 2005. It's a very simple breath work technique. It's 3 simple steps. I usually have people practice it at night when they're going to bed and then when they first wake up, to create the muscle memory, just like going to the gym, creating that muscle memory, the neural pathways, and then wiring it into the stress reaction in the body. So let's dive in. The first step is understanding when we're stressed, and we're going to open that up a little bit. The second step is being able to observe our stress. And the third step is actually stress stopper breath work. And that's the technique that I'm going to share with you right now. Okay, so let's dive into each one of these components here. I teach folks to understand their stress signals. If you think about your own life and you think about your biggest stress, you'll look through these bullet points: your heart rate, your breath rate, your mental state, your emotional state, and physical tension. And if you think about your biggest stress, you might be able to get a hint as to what the clearest stress signal for you might be when you're getting stressed out by that stress trigger, okay? And you can keep an eye out for that stress signal. So let's say you're having a stress with your spouse. Your emotional state might be your stress signal, right? When you get really upset or overreactive. And then I want you to say, when you notice that you're upset and you have that reaction, oh yeah, my body's just stressed again. Okay, it takes a little time to merge and kind of like connect the wiring in the brain. But once you start practicing it after a few weeks, you get really good at it. It becomes second nature. So you get really tuned into your body. The next major step is being able to observe the reaction. And here is something that is talked about a lot in Buddhism. It's called the observer consciousness. And I've come up with a few simple techniques that make it easy to tap into and to understand what the observer consciousness actually is. So if you think about this, the observer consciousness being listening to your thoughts like you're listening to the radio. Pretty simple, right? Not getting attached to your thoughts, just listening to them as if you're listening to the radio. Watching tension build in your body like you're watching TV. Just think about it that way. Normally, when we get stressed and we feel tense, we get freaked out about it. This is just watching it and observing it. Having compassion for your feelings like you're comforting a young child. So it's creating a little bit of a separation emotionally from the situation, a slight separation. And then sitting with your emotions like you're sitting with an old friend. So usually when we have a deep emotional reaction, what happens? We get freaked out about being freaked out, and then the reaction gets away from us. Well, here, I want you to imagine when you recognize that you're stressed out, that little light bulb goes off in the back of your mind. Oh, yeah, my body's just stressed again. And now we're observing what's happening in our mind, in our emotions, in our body. Okay? Now we're finally getting to stress stopper breath work. And I want us all to do this together. Anytime you're stressed out, the first step is touch the tension. For me, when I get stressed, I usually feel the tension and the emotion in my chest. So I'm pretty much always touching here. The next step is start breathing deeply and slowly. And the third step is once per breath, silently say in the back of your mind, I'm okay. So I want us to do 5 breaths together right now. I'm okay. And you can say it silently as I'm saying it aloud. And you could close your eyes. I'm okay. And I want you to recognize the tension in your body. I want you to breathe right into it. I'm okay. Embracing the tension with your breath, feeling the air flow coming in through your nose, opening up your sinuses, cooling off your brain, circulating throughout your chest. I'm okay. And one more, a little deeper, a little slower. I'm okay. All right. If you just did that with me, you might see that you feel a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more centered. When you first start using this technique, it takes about 2 minutes for your body's relaxation response to activate. When that happens, the stress reaction, your body's fight or flight, is disengaged. Again, the steps are touch, breathe, and once per breath, silently say, I'm okay. When you use these 3 steps together, it's kind of like a 1, 2, 3 combination punch that knocks out your stress. Okay. Touch is therapeutic. The reason why I came up with this part of it, close to 2 decades ago, was I started to meditate on why, when I was a little kid, when I fell, when I was running and my knee was bleeding, when my grandmother would pick me up and put me in a rocking chair, why after a few minutes would all the pain go away? It was the touch. The touch is therapeutic. Breathing deeply and slowly, science has been telling us for decades, this is how we manually shift gears from stress to rest. And the I'm okay mantra, it might sound cheesy, but it is the opposite logic that drives our fight or flight reaction, which is I must run or fight to stay alive. So just imagine those tense cells inside your body. Remember, you're touching the tension that is activated, the cellular memories inside your body that are stirring up all the emotions that's fueling your stress reaction. Imagine what those cells are experiencing when they feel connected to the calm cells in your hand, when they have the life force energy that they're worried about not having, right? When your body gets stressed out, the cell membrane thickens and it's not respirating. But now we're touching it to comfort it. It's respirating. It's getting the oxygen it needs. So it has a life force and it hears that echo of I'm okay. It doesn't hear all the myriad of stress thoughts. It hears I'm okay. So once those cells hear I'm okay, it feels connected, it has the life force, that stress releases. If we have any questions, feel free to ask on this slide. Because as we go through the slides, the techniques go deeper and they get a little bit more complex. So here is a technique that helps clients release deep emotional pain. okay? Similar to stress stopper breath work. Step 1 is touch. Step 2 is breathe. And instead of saying I'm okay, we're expressing our emotions. And step 4 is receive. And we're going to go through each of these. Now, Vanya Zumek, she received the Mental Health America's Spirit of Recovery Reward this year for 2024. She is a U.S. Coast Guard veteran, mother of 4, and she is just incredible. She also volunteers to help veterans. She was at 2 of our retreats, one at Omega and one at the Himalayan Institute. And Vanya is a close member of the Stress is Gone family. So step 1, we have that down. Step 2 is breathe deeply and slowly. Step 3, for veterans, first responders, any of us, for me, most of my life, it was very difficult for me to express my feelings. It was almost foreign. So this gives our veterans and first responders a technique to follow. And what I found is that a veteran, a first responder, can do anything when they're given the right tool. So I have little images that I text my clients that show these techniques. And then I train them how to do it. And then I have them teach it back to me so I know they got it. So step 3, if we dive into that a little bit, it's just showing the veteran, the first responder, your client, how to start expressing their feelings. And this is not really done in a therapy session with you. This is a self-care tool that they do on their own, where the rubber meets the road when they get stressed out and upset in their everyday life. And we use their number one trigger, their number one stress, as the practice zone. That's where they're practicing to use these tools. That's where they start to master their stress. So going into step 3, you could see ABC, and they would actually say this. I feel the tightness in my chest. This emotion feels like sadness. I think it's related to, and they could say what triggered it. I think it's related to my spouse, my kids, right? And here's where you want to go off on a stream of consciousness. After you say what you think it's related to, you just want to continue allowing the words to flow of how you're feeling. And you'll find that as you're expressing your feelings, what happens? You start to feel the tension unlock and release from your body as you're expressing how you're feeling. The key is not censoring any of the words coming out of your mouth and not judging them, just allowing it to express. And you want to say everything you can possibly say about how you're feeling. I call that emptying the tank. Once you feel the tank is empty, then you go to step 4. Step 4 is where you use the power of the spoken word. It's a simple phrase that I teach my clients to say, and it's very empowering. And again, this is done after they express all their feelings. You simply say, I unlock and release all this sadness from my heart right now. Now, let's say your client is feeling rage and they're feeling it in their solar plexus, right? They would be breathing deeply and slowly, touching the tension, expressing all their feelings, and then they would say, I unlock and release all this rage and anger from my solar plexus right now. And then they would go back to breathing deeply and slowly, and then they would feel another layer of that tension release from their body. Remember, the body is always responding to our thoughts and our words. The subconscious is always waiting to get the directives. It's like that supercomputer that's always running in the background, right? Like the operating systems in your computer. They're always running in the background, waiting for an order, waiting for guidance. So when the person says, I unlock and release all of this anger, rage, sadness from my heart, my solar plexus right now, and they're breathing deeply and slowly, and they've also expressed all their feelings, and they're embracing the tension with their touch, the body responds, and they actually feel that tension release. And that is a very empowering moment which puts the individual back in the driver's seat. So if anyone has any questions on this slide, I'd be happy to answer that. If not, we
Not seen
will.
any questions yet.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the anxiety freedom technique. This technique I created right after the pandemic started. I live an hour north of Manhattan in New York, and I have a lot of friends in the healthcare industry, a lot of nurses, a few doctors, and I was hearing stories of how folks that worked in these hospitals were in the parking lot crying that it was hard to get into work. And then once they left work, they were stuck in their driveway crying because they just were overloaded. They were hit by a tsunami of stress inside these hospitals. Okay. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could just share a tool with them, a simple 3-step technique that would help them unlock and release the anxiety from their body and shed all the emotional weight of the day. And what came out was a beautiful technique that we sent to the American Nursing Association, all the state heads, and they disseminated it as they saw fit to the different nurses in their network. So the first step is identify the core fear fueling your anxiety. Super important. We can't let go of anxiety unless we know the core fear that's fueling it, and it's a subconscious fear. Then we affirm. Just like that little statement in step 4 in the previous technique, we have a freedom statement that creates a new neural pathway to expedite the relief. And then we integrate with breath work. Okay? As we integrate with breath work, we're actually wiring in the relief into that area of the body that was housing the anxiety. So here's what it looks like. This is the anxiety freedom technique. I certify people in this technique. I teach it to my more advanced clients, but mostly I train mental health professionals how to train their clients in it. Okay. First step is express your core emotions. I found this is the key to breaking free from anxiety. Writing down everything that's stressing you out. If you're under a lot of anxiety, I encourage you to grab a pen and a paper and do this right now. Write out everything that's stressing you out. List it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. List out as many as you want. Then you look at the piece of paper and you circle the one that stresses you out the most. And then you ask yourself these questions. What is the worst case scenario of the situation that you circled? Now you're starting to go below the waterline of the conscious level. You're starting to get into the unconscious level. And here's where we take it even deeper into the subconscious. What's your biggest fear about that worst case scenario of the situation that you circled? Now, if stress is an iceberg, right, and everything above the waterline is all the routine stress, our family, work, finances, and everything below that waterline in here is the old traumatic memories of abuse, divorce, neglect, right? Near-death experiences, all the trauma that's stored subconsciously. Now we're starting to go a little bit deeper into our core subconscious fear that's driving the anxiety. After we know the worst case scenario, the biggest fear of the worst case scenario, now you're going to feel tension in an area of your body. That's where the cellular memories live that created that core subconscious fear. And then I have our clients answer this question. Instead of anxiety, what would you like to feel in that area of your body? Now we'll go into step 2, which is create your freedom statement. This is that part of the technique where we use the power of the spoken word to command the subconscious to respond for us in the way that we want it to, where we kind of like take control of the supercomputer and consciously steer it in a direction where we want it to go. So here's our freedom statement. I want to completely break free from all the fear of whatever that core fear was in part 3. I'm sorry, in the answer to C. And unlock and release all the tension in my, let's say it was in your heart. I replace all that space with your answer for E right now. So if anyone has any questions on this, I encourage you to ask them now. If not, that's okay. After we say this a few times, we're breathing deeply and slowly. You're going to start to feel a transformation happening in your body. I recommend saying this a number of times. Then you lie down. We move to step 3. Start breathing deeply and slowly. You're touching attention, embracing it with your breath. Slowly read your freedom statement for 10 minutes, and then you end with 10 minutes of stress stopper breath work. Now, it might sound a little clunky when I'm reading it to you, but if you actually go through this exercise, it's completely transformative. You feel emotions changing inside your body as you're doing the technique, as you practice it. And as a person that grew up with a lot of stress, I could tell you that I use this technique if I'm having trouble getting to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I'm worried about one of the kids, if I just have generalized anxiety and I'm not sure where it's coming from, I grab a pen and a paper, I do this technique. It takes like 3 minutes. I lay down on the couch, and then I'm using my freedom statement. And usually within 1 or 2 minutes, the anxiety unlocks and releases from my body. It's pretty miraculous stuff. And it's all about surfacing the core fear and creating a freedom statement and breathing deeply and slowly into your body. Okay, so let's take a look at the next slide here.
Hi, Brett. We have a question from Roger. The question is, what psychoeducation can I provide to give biological evidence of this technique's effectiveness?
Okay, so what I would say to that is I have approached a few places that do research, and often their response is, I need $300,000 to start a clinical trial. The way I've chosen to live my life is to help the people that need it. So I teach these techniques in retreats with 25 veterans that are diagnosed with severe complex PTSD. People that are in each one of my retreats, there's at least one person that's suicidal. Okay. In the work that I do, I'm in the trenches, just as you are. Now, if you want like white papers and research papers on this technique, you're not going to find them yet. Because until Stress Is Gone has brand recognition and official funding, it's not going to be there. Or until a scientist joins Stress Is Gone and runs that end of it, because running a research project like that would take all my time away. And I've chosen to work literally in the trenches where the emotions are, where people are suicidal and where they've been living with deep emotional pain. So I wish I had a better answer for that great question. But if you want proof that it works, use it the next time you're anxious, and you'll see how great it works. I shared a 90-second reel on Instagram about this technique because I have like a really quick way I explain it. And on someone else's account, it got 2.5 million views. So people were using the technique. It's a powerful technique. That's all I could tell you. And I feel that science will catch on the moment that it's meant to happen. The moment that someone that runs research programs and clinical trials comes in contact with this technique and myself or someone that works for me, and they're like, I want to study this, it'll be done. I'm just not going to divert my time with working with people that really need it now in the realm of the research. So I'm just not personally called to do that. But great question. I love that question. And if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to ask away. And again, this technique came out from me. I created this technique. My background is in psychology, and then I've studied a lot of the Western philosophies. I was trained by a 35th generation Shaolin Grandmaster from China, and other holistic healers that figured out really amazing and fast ways that people can resolve deep emotional traumas from childhood. And that's kind of like the path I went down. I started down 25 years ago. And I've been stuck to it like a moth to a flame. All right. Hopefully that answered your question. This is a technique that I teach veterans, first responders, clients. I train our coaches in this. This is called the traumatic memory release technique. We call it the TMR for short. The first step is regulate. Before we do this technique with somebody, they get really good at stressed out breath work. The second step is remember. The third step is release. And the fourth step is integrate. This is really for healing traumatic memories. When someone gets good enough with our techniques and they have a trauma that they want to release, they can do it on their own. Our coaches get trained in how to facilitate this technique in their own workshops, their own one-on-one sessions with clients. So let's open this up a little bit and unpack it, right? The first step is regulate. Person would lie down, get really comfortable, place one hand on their chest and their other hand on their stomach. They start breathing deeply and slowly and saying, I'm okay. They would do this for about 5 minutes or until they feel completely relaxed. Then they would remember. With their eyes closed, they would hold in mind the most stressful moment of the traumatic memory they want to resolve. Now they move their hands to where they feel the tension. Because remember, the location of the tension, when we are holding a memory in mind that holds a lot of stress for us, that's where the cellular memories and the emotional pain is stored in the body. So we connect that pain with the hands so that the cells feel comforted in this process and they feel safe enough to let go. We're breathing deeply and slowly into the tension. So you're visualizing the airflow moving through the tension deeply and slowly. Our touch and our breath are the two tethers to the present moment when we're doing this technique. As the person's doing this, they're going to have feelings start to erupt. And the key is expressing verbally everything that they're feeling. Right now, I'm feeling a ton of pain. Right now, I'm feeling all this sadness in my heart, my solar plexus. I feel tightness in my stomach. They're just saying exactly what they're feeling. The tears are going to come. We teach our clients, when we let the tears flow, we're doing a great job and we're letting the pain go. As long as we do not identify with the pain and the memories that are coming up to release. All these emotions are coming up to release. It's almost like a volcano when the ashes are going into the air. The mind does not know how to let go. Our body and our emotions do. Every cell on the planet is pre-programmed to return to homeostasis. The issue is when we feel emotions, our mind says, I am sad. I am so angry. Now our subconscious perpetuates that feeling and it sticks with us like glue. So we teach our clients, and I coach our coaches to teach their clients how to stay present and use their touch and their breath in this technique to not identify with their pain, but to breathe through it so they could move through it and let go of it. So now let's move to step 3. With our eyes closed, we're breathing deeply and slowly, once per breath, silently saying, I'm okay. And you visualize your past self inside the memory, breathing the exact same way. So what this looks like is, let's say I'm doing the technique, I'm breathing deeply and slowly. I'm thinking of, let's say when a dog bit me when I was 5 years old. When I think of that memory, it caused a lot of anxiety. I feel that tension. I embrace it. I'm breathing into it. I express my feelings. And now, once those feelings start to release, I go into the memory and I imagine myself in the memory is breathing the exact same way. If there's too much chaos happening in the memory, we have our clients put the pause button on the memory. So everything freezes that's happening around you inside the memory, except you. You are unfrozen. You are alive. You're able to breathe deeply and slowly. And most importantly, you're able to say, I'm okay, once per breath. I'm okay, while you're facing that trauma, that fear, that trigger, breathing even deeper and slower. I'm okay. And usually it's about 5 to 15 minutes for the relaxation response to kick in. Once there is no more tension inside the memory or in your body, then you shift into step 4, which is integrate. Then you're going to open up your eyes. You're going to look around you and return to the present moment, doing stress stopper breath work, breathing deeply and slowly. I'm okay. I'm okay. Coming back to the present moment. So this is how we use our technique that has been certified for about 12, 13 years now by the American Institute of Stress stopper breath work. We apply that technique to help us recover and heal and resolve the pain that was stuck in old traumatic memories. Now, we can't change a past event in history, but we sure can change the emotional imprint on a memory. Remember, energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. So we are changing the energetic form that is imprinted on that memory from fear to inner peace, to calmness with the relaxation response. Does anyone have any questions on this? I encourage any and all of you that if you don't think that this is true, to try it and come to your own realizations and truth with it and understanding through your own experience of it. This is very new, these techniques, for most of us.
All right, Brett, we do have a couple of questions from Kelly. How long does it take for someone to learn this technique? And what is the time frame you have observed for people to actually apply this technique?
Everyone's different. Some people that we coach, it's kind of like Mozart. They're ready to, they can just play. Some people I teach stressed upper breath work, and then I talk to them a week later, all their stress is gone because they merged it with all their triggers, right? It's amazing. This, I feel, with 2 or 3 coaching sessions and training sessions that our coaches are able to coach their clients into using it effectively. I always recommend doing it a few times with a coach or your therapist. If you are a therapist and a counselor, a coach yourself, coaching your clients through it a number of times until they feel confident. It's just like playing a sport, right? Some boys and girls can connect with the ball right away. Some take a little bit more guidance, and every person learns in their own unique way. So it's really until that light bulb goes off. The issue is staying present. Sometimes if the PTSD is very complex, right? Different layers of different emotions pop up out of nowhere. Now, when you're coaching somebody, we are just present with each layer and we're breathing into it and we're being really present. We're not rushing anything. We're sticking with it. We're breathing into it until the person becomes okay. And then another layer might come up and another and another. So depending on how complex your client's trauma is, I would do this longer with them, the more in-depth their trauma is. If it's one traumatic memory, it might take 3 sessions or so for you to teach this to them, and then them to be able to do that on their own, right? But they might be in the nest with you for a longer period of time where you're going through this with them. They might not even realize that you're training them in this technique. It's just starting to get ingrained in them. And then over time, they're able to do it on their own. I hope that makes sense. Was there any other questions on this?
Yes. So have you ever worked with someone with aphantasia that is unable to visualize things in their mind?
Great question. So we just wrapped up a coach's certification program this week, and that came up inside our program. If the person cannot visualize, that's totally okay. Usually they'll remember that it happened to them, right? Let's say that a memory happened with their father when they were 8 years old. They may not be able to visualize the room they were in, what they were wearing, the color of the walls, but they know something happened. They remember around the age. They remember with their, it was with their father, and they feel all the emotions. So what you would do in that case is you would guide them to express all of the emotions. And I'm going to guide you through some of the questions in the suicide prevention protocol, which opens up a safe space on how to do that. But I'm going to give you a little teaser right now. When someone has trouble visualizing, they're touching the tension, and you start to serenade their pain from the depths of their subconscious by saying, please tell me more. So if they were to say, I feel a lot of pain right now in my heart, you lean in and you say, please tell me more. And then they start talking. When they're done talking, you say, I want to hear everything. Then they start talking a little more. And then you might ask, what's the hardest part to talk about? And then they start talking, never interrupting. You're just being present with them, leaning in with childlike curiosity and compassion. And then you ask, what's your biggest fear about that? Now we're diving underneath the subconscious, that waterline between the conscious and the unconscious. We're diving into that subconscious space where the fear for core beliefs and original traumatic memories live. Right? And then you say, what does that feel like? And now they're unpacking. Right? So we call those questions the 5 prompts, and we're unpacking plumes of old emotions. And it might take 5 minutes to go through that. It might take 15, it might take 25. And you're just leaning in. You're just remaining present. You're breathing into the stress in your own body that you feel while they're showing you the darkest moments of their life. You're releasing your stress so you can remain clear and present and continue to lean in with your open heart so that they know that someone's finally there seeing their pain, hearing their pain, not judging it. You're not trying to figure out what to say to make them feel okay. You're just helping them unpack all their old dirty laundry, unpacking it, unwinding it. And in that unpacking and unwinding, where there's no judgment of their pain, of anything they're saying, and you're going to hear the craziest things, you're continually leaning in, and they're going to check in on you to see if you're shocked, if you're still present, what your body language is like. Over 90% of human communication is done through body language and tone. When your body language shows them that you are open, receptive, and caring and loving, they're going to continue to open up to you. And they're going to show you everything that they've been through. So do we have any other questions on that before we go to the next slide?
I'm not seeing any more questions.
Okay, great. Great questions, by the way. Kudos, awesome questions. Keep them coming. And Susie, how are we doing on time?
I think that we're doing good. We have about 45 minutes left.
Okay, so we're right in the middle. Awesome. So now we're going to transition into the stress is gone suicide prevention system, right? What we just talked about was the self-care tools that I certify coaches in, and I also teach my clients and they teach their clients, right? And I use myself. These tools are good for you if you're alive in a body, okay? Because we all have stress, we all have tension. What I've found over the last 25 years is the more core, deep subconscious fear we release, and the more core traumatic memories we resolve, the less prone we are to stress. So the more deep fear that we let go of, the core subconscious beliefs that are fearful that we release, the more we resolve the old traumatic memories that we went through personally. It's almost like if life is like a minefield and we're trying to navigate around those mines, when you release the fear, it's like somebody cut the wires from all those mines, and you could just walk through the field with more peace, without worrying, with more knowing that you are connected and cared for. Because we let go of the core fear that drives our stress reaction. The more fear we have from the more trauma that we experienced, the narrower our perception is. As we let go of core beliefs that are fearful, as we resolve old traumatic memories, our perception clears. So when stress shows itself, we don't get laser focused on it. We actually can see other possibilities to move around it. How do we get around it? Maybe there's a different way to address it. Maybe there's a different way to respond to it, right? Before we move on from that last section, my closing is I refer to a traumatic memory as resolved when a client can reflect on that memory without any stress activating in their body, without any negative thoughts coming to mind. That's when they're at peace with that part of their past. And what I found through working with a myriad of people, working with inner city youth, gang members, doctors, nurses, teachers, veterans, first responders, healthcare workers, caregivers, right? All different types of folks. Is that if you help them resolve the core 4 most traumatic memories that have happened in their life, and the one relationship in their childhood that was the most traumatic for them, with the most unresolved emotions there, with one of their parents, that they get a completely new lease on life. So let's say one of your clients has major issues with their spouse, with their female spouse. We all know that we're duking it out with our female spouse. We're duking it out with our mom, right? All the unresolved issues from childhood that we have with our mother, we duke out with our female spouse, right? And vice versa. If we're a female with a male spouse, we are duking it out with our father through our husband, right? And we do this. It's this waves of generational and ancestral trauma that pass down from parent to children, from parent to children, parent to child, right? So using these tools, resolving the most core traumatic memories of our lives, 4 experiences, and the one most traumatic relationship with that parent that we have all those unresolved emotions with, when we break free from those 5 things, it gives our clients a new lease on life, right? Completely opens up new doorways and space to create the life that they have always wanted, have healthier relationships, pursue their passion, right? And have a complete new level of joy and happiness in their life. Okay. Now let's move on to the suicide prevention system. We have 4 core components. We have our protocol, right, which consists of a flow chart, a support guide, so counselors know what to say, and the training, which is learning how to say it, right, the right body language and things like that. Then we have a mobile app called PTSD Keys, and then we have a wellness platform, which we invite all of our trainees and our coaches into, that they get to use it for themselves and their clients, okay? So just to read Rhonda's testimonial, this was from a number of years ago, battling depression and PTSD for decades. Brett's technique guided me through the healing I needed. It didn't take long. Life is sweet again. I just want to give you a little backdrop there. Colonel Michael Burrows referred me to Rhonda. I was doing a few Zooms for Michael Burrows' Victory for Veterans Veteran Support Group and Warriors for Life Veteran Support Group. He referred me to one of his dear friends that he's known for decades. And Rhonda was going through a super tough time. one of her sons had passed away about a year ago, and a year before I spoke to her. She was suffering with alcoholism and depression, and she didn't want to get out of bed. She wasn't out of bed in about 6 months. We did one super long phone session. It was about 2.5 hours. We didn't even talk about her son, because what I felt happened and what came up, she never resolved losing her father when she was 12 years old. All that trauma of losing him was stirred up when she lost her son. So we spent a 2.5 hour session having her open up, unlock and release, and resolve all the old inner pain and tension from all that stored, repressed stress from when she was a kid. So after that session, she stopped drinking, and her husband went on a 6-month camping trip around the country. Okay. So to me, that's a breakthrough. To me, that's a success. And I'm happy for Rhonda for experiencing that and for breaking through that. And I'm very grateful to her for sharing her testimonial. And I'm grateful for Michael, Colonel Burrows, for connecting us. Okay.
Brett, we have a question. Provide a new orientation to the primary traumatic memory and resolve the primary parental wound, and that's the protocol for a new lease on life.
So that's what I found when we surface the subconscious core fears that we've absorbed from traumatic memories, usually from our formative years, right? But working with first responders and working with veterans, that also, those memories happen in our adulthood as well. But I found that if you just resolve those memories in adulthood and you don't get to the childhood ones, it's about you're getting halfway there, right? We really have to crack into the stuff that happened in our formative years. And so clearing up that number one most painful relationship with the one parent that you wanted more from. And that's how I usually decipher from my clients. And let's say a client's father was abusive, right? I find this very often. And the mother might have been submissive. You would think that the bulk of the trauma was with the dad, but often it's not. They wanted more from their mother. They wanted her mother to challenge the dad and then also to leave the dad. So the issues actually were unpacking on a deeper level from the mother, right? So when we unpack the core pain around the one parent we wanted more from, and we release the core fear around our four most traumatic memories of our lives, yes, those 5 things set people free. Absolutely. That's what I found over the last 25 years of doing this. Great question. I knew this group would have awesome questions. So now I wanted to just show you at a quick glance, just a little bit of the suicide prevention family handbook. This is what, this is like the layperson, how they would get the suicide prevention protocol, right? Body language and tone, how to express compassion in body language. So this teaches parents how to talk to their teenagers, their kids, or any loved one. It could be, your spouse that's suffering with severe depression and even suicidal ideation, right? And this is what you would do if you're face to face with a client that's suffering, right? You would make sure that you're about an arm's distance away so they feel a connection, right? You're not super far. And your posture, the left side is slightly forward and all of your limbs are uncrossed, okay? When you are crossed, when your legs are crossed, your arms are crossed, you're protecting yourself, okay? So when you're uncrossed, right, you're sitting there, your hands are kind of resting on your thighs gently, and you're leaning in, your spine is straight, and your left side's a little bit forward. When your left side is forward, you are showing that you're in receptive mode. Okay. To really get into receptive mode, the next level of body language is having your left hand slightly forward with your left palm up. Okay. With your left palm up. That is really showing someone that, hey, they're listening to me. Okay. Your face is really important as well, right? Very soft facial expressions, right? Slight rising of the eyebrows, just so they know you're listening, especially when they say something that might be shocking, right? Maintaining eye contact. Looking into their right eye with your left eye puts them in control and tells them you are listening. Okay, very important. These are kind of like high-level body language techniques that you're not going to really find out from too many people out there. And again, the things you don't want to do is not crossing your limbs. You don't want to touch your face. You don't want to look shocked. You don't want to move around. You don't want to wave your arms. This is what we train parents to do. But as mental health professionals, these body language techniques are work for you as well. Before I go on to the next part of this slide, does anyone have a question? I thought I might have seen something pop up in the chat.
Yes, Charles has a question. Does this change with different races?
No, this is human body language. The only thing it might change, some people are wired differently because of their trauma, right? Because of how they grew up. Also, if they're left-handed. But more than 90% of the people, if you are sitting in this way with your spine straight, you're leaning in slightly with your left shoulder, your left hand is up on your thigh, your left palm is gently up, your right hand is gently down, resting, and soft gaze, soft squint even, nodding, showing you're paying attention, right? And when we go into our suicide prevention specialist training, we also teach mirroring when a person is like expressing their deepest emotions, right? And these are the questions that we have in the suicide prevention protocol for a parent to help unpack stuff from their child. But these are the same questions we teach in the protocol, right? Please tell me more. I want to hear everything. What's the hardest part to talk about? What's your biggest fear about that? What does that feel like? Okay. Now, what happens when we're a parent and we hear our children say, God forbid, I don't want to be here anymore? As a parent, we have a myriad of stressful thoughts, okay? And as a mental health professional, when our clients say it, we kind of hear it coming with our spidey sense, and we're like, oh my gosh, I hope he or she doesn't say this. I know it's coming, and you get a little bit of panic. And then what happens when they say it? You feel the stress because we're a human being, right? But I want you to do something different, okay? I want you to do something different that's going to help your clients 10 times more. This is what we teach in the suicide prevention protocol, okay? CPR for those suffering with suicidal ideation. Compassion, presence, and relaxation. Your compassion and presence is what's going to help bring them through the arc of panic, anxiety, depression, wanting to leave, and then finally get them to a place of relaxation, okay? You're going to be able to bring them through that arc only if you could release your stress as it arises. So what we teach our coaches, our parents, is that as you're listening to the individual speaking, and they're opening up about the dark night of their soul, their deepest, darkest feelings, they're bawling, and you feel your stress come up, you're going to touch your tension. You're going to start breathing deeply and slowly right into it. And you're going to silently say, I'm okay. And that's going to release your stress so that you could return to the present moment. If you don't, your stress is going to talk through you, and that's not going to help your client or your daughter or your son or your spouse. The only thing that's going to help them is you releasing your stress and being truly present for them, because that's how you're going to eventually help them co-regulate towards the end of the session. Now, please let me know if you have any questions on this flow chart. This is the basic flow chart that I teach vet-to-vet crisis counselors, suicide prevention specialists, our trauma recovery coaches, our trauma specialists, you name it. This is kind of like the blueprint for when anyone shares with us that they're having suicidal thought. Okay. So in the core of it, we have expression, encouragement, and connection. We're really connecting with the individual by releasing our stress. We're leaning in so that they know that we're there with them. Less is more. We're listening, empathy, and sympathy, right? After they said everything they could possibly say, you're going to feel that they start to come back down to homeostasis. They start to come back to a place where they can be regulated, but they just went through a very traumatic and transformative, expressive moment with you. So then you transition to breath work and you bring them through one of the tools that feel like the right tool for that moment, whether it's regarding stress, anxiety, trauma, or helping them, a tool to help them get to sleep, and then you close out the session. So now I'm going to bring you into the protocol. This is just a snapshot, okay? This is just a snapshot. The protocol is more robust, but I wanted to share some of it with you. The meat and potatoes of this protocol is the 5 prompts. This helps your clients, your spouse, anyone. The coaches that I train, they use the 5 prompts on their teenagers, on their spouse. These 5 prompts break through the karmic behavioral stress patterns that we have with the loved ones in our lives. You know how you might have the same argument with your spouse over and over again, the same argument with your teenager over and over again, the same thing is repeating like clockwork? Well, if you do these 5 prompts, you're going to break the chain. You're going to absolutely break the chain. And if you release the tension from your body and you really lean in and listen, you're absolutely going to break the chain. And by the time you get to question or prompt 3, the person on the other end that was projecting onto you is going to realize, you know what? It's not even about you. It's about X, Y, and Z. This happens all the time in our training program. When one of the coaches uses it and they practice on their spouse, they don't tell their spouse they're practicing, but when they get into that argument, the light bulb goes off. Oh yeah, we're hearing that same old argument. They just sit back and say, please tell me more. I have no idea you felt this way. I want to hear everything. And their spouse is like, huh? And then they just start going off and projecting, but you're letting those words fly right by you. They're not landing on you because this is not about you, right? And then you just say, what's the hardest part to talk about? I'm right here for you. I can see how upset you are. And then they say, you know what? This isn't even about you. I've been feeling this way ever since blah, blah, blah. My mother, my father, this, that. And because you provided a safe enough space for this issue to open up to the deeper level and for some of the awareness to sink into the subconscious, and the dots start to get put together in the moment. And it's a beautiful thing because that's how you break through the family stress that we all go through, right? That we all have with our spouses and our kids. So it's amazing when I'm doing my vet-to-vet crisis counselor training and they practice at home and they're like, I can't believe this just worked with my 12-year-old son, my 16-year-old daughter, right? My husband, my wife. So I encourage you to use this on yourself. The way I train people and the way I bring people through the Stress Is Gone program is to use it on yourself, to clear out from within so we can really share these tools from a grounded place of truth. So, does anyone have any initial questions on this slide? This is kind of like the main core component when you're going through the emotional throes of a person that's having suicidal ideation. So we get them to open up with the 5 prompts. Once the core issue has surfaced, this is something they may have not expressed to anyone else. And when they trust you enough and you've created such a great safe place, it will come up. They'll tell you something they've never told anyone. Their darkness is going to be revealed. Remember, all this emotional pain is coming up to release. The only thing that holds on to it is judgment and identifying with the pain. So when you are in a place of being purely present, not judging it, that other person sees you and feels you being present with it. All of our pain just needs 4 eyeballs and 4 ears to release, because all of our pain is waiting to be seen, heard, and loved. And the love comes through naturally. If you're releasing your stress as a coach, as a counselor, as a therapist, if you're releasing your stress as you're hearing all the darkness come up out of them, that love is going to come through you. You're going to radiate it. It's not going to be anything you're going to have to do. You just surrender to it and it comes through you. Because that's what happens when we're not judging it and when we're not trying to figure it out. We're just helping them unpack. It's a whole new approach to helping people heal and letting it be as natural as humanly possible. And this is now happening on suicide hotlines. Vet to vet counselors are doing this for other veterans right now. It's beautiful. So after they have expressed everything, we transition into the light blue, which is encourage and connect. We're in this together. I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here with you. I'm honored to be here with you. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. My God, I know that this is hard to talk about. I'm amazed how well you expressed all this to me. Then we transition to breath work. Do you feel any tension in your body? 99.9% of the time, they're going to say, yes, I feel tension in my chest, my throat, my face, my solar plexus. A lot of times it's the stomach. The location of the tension tells you what the core issue is inside that group of cellular memories. For example, if the tension is being held in the solar plexus, those are cellular memories of having your power taken away or you gave it away. If the tension's in their stomach, that is a reflection of old cellular memories of pushing all your pain down. If the tension's in your throat, that is a reflection of cellular memories that are in your body of times when you knew what to say, but you held it back anyway. Like if we had an overbearing parent that we just wanted to tell them something so bad, but we knew we couldn't say that, because if we did, we would either be in trouble or we could be in physical pain, physical fear of pain, right, from an abusive parent, or if we're stuck in situations at work with overbearing supervisors where we just can't speak our truth because we fear it might come back in a negative way to us and we have to hold it in. So that could be a reflection of having tension in your throat, and then you push down other emotions into your stomach. Tension in your heart is being disconnected from fear. I'm sorry, being disconnected from love and being in fear of being unlovable. Okay. So the body tells us where trends of emotions have pooled inside of us. Okay. Any questions on that? If we feel that there is even a little bit of a risk of them being a threat to their own safety or someone else, we go right into the risk assessment questions to the right side. And you see these little bidirectional arrows. This is a very fluid technique. Everything moves back and forth, right? So let's say you're in the 5 prompts, you're in question 3, what's the hardest part to talk about? And they start to get really emotional. Let's say they're getting frustrated and angry, right? Well, now look over to the emotional mirroring section. If they're infuriated, right, you could lean in. That sounds so infuriating. If that happened to me, I would feel the exact same way 100%. I'm right here with you, right? And what I teach people is to emotional mirror just enough so they know that you're not a freaking robot, right? So if someone's irate, I would kind of lean in. You say, oh my God, I would be so frustrated if that happened to me. I would feel the exact same way you feel right now, right? Validating their feelings, showing they're listening, showing we're listening, showing them that we're in the trenches with them right now, right? This is very rare because our feedback from the clients that have called into our training program, people that have called the suicide hotline many times, told us the biggest difference from our coaches and suicide prevention specialists is that they never felt so connected and heard. And then they always love the relaxation at the end. So I feel another key component to our suicide prevention training is knowing what to say when help is on the way. And I gave you a little taste of it here, right? With these red and white statements. I think we have I think we have 7 there. We have about 30 statements. And what I have our counselors do is they just circle the ones they love. You know, when you read about 30 of these statements, and this is like when you're waiting for 911 to arrive, you circle maybe, you know, a handful that you really like, that you really feel you can deliver in the heat of the moment, right? And you kind of curtail it to your style. So do we happen to have any questions on this?
Yes, I do have a couple. Charles asked, have you ever had experience with someone who didn't have any tension?
No, because when they're talking about now we're talking about suicide prevention, right? So we're talking about someone that is having ideation, that's super depressed. What I found with the tension of depression, normally it feels like a 50-pound weight over the breastplate right here, right? And it's like compressing down on the heart and the chest. And it's almost like we feel like a bug and we can't get away from it. Like we're stuck on our backs and this pressure's on our chest. Um, People that can't feel the tension have numbed themselves because the pain was too difficult to feel at a prior point in their life. So those nerve endings have become so numb. It takes time to thaw that out by breathing into it with guiding them through affirmations of saying it's okay to feel, it's okay to cry. As I let the tears flow, I'm letting the pain go. It's okay to go through the emotional car wash, right? When I hold back all those tears, it's like dirt on the windshield. I can't see clearly because all those emotions, all those layers are clogging my perception. Now, as I cry and I clear and I let those tears fall to the ground, I'm actually starting to clear my perception and I could actually see with some clarity. So when they're numb, when they can't feel, what I start to do is I'll ask the questions in a little bit of a different way to try and open up an avenue of feeling, right? And then you could just say, how long have you been feeling this way? How long have you been feeling the numbness? What are you afraid of feeling? Well, I'm afraid if I start crying, I'll never stop. Wow. Can you tell me more? Did you feel anything inside your body? Did your body give you any signals? Did you feel any tension, any sparks, any twitches anywhere when you said that? Did anyone mirror that in your household that you grew up in? Was your mom or your dad like that? Yeah, my mom was very cold. She never showed emotion. Are you feeling any emotion when you say that? Right? So we're slowly unpacking things, being really present in the moment, right where they're at. Great question. Was there any other questions on this slide?
This is a follow-up question. You may have just answered it, but I'm going to ask anyway in case you want to add anything else. Cassandra asked, can you repeat what the cause for pain in the chest?
The calls or the cause?
Cause.
Cause. Okay, so with depression, all right. So in our coaches training, we have this thing called the emotional body model, and it has all the different parts of the body, everything that gets stored. For another example, if you have tension in your eyes, you've seen too much. When tension is in our face, we feel that we can't face the problem, that we had to face too much, and it's too much for us. The heart was feeling that you're disconnected from love and that you're angry about that and that there's a fear of being unlovable. So that's one of them, right? But remember, these are general trends of how emotions pool inside of our body and where they subconsciously store inside the cellular library of our body, okay? So sometimes, I'll give you an example. Tension on the shoulders, that reflects obligation and responsibility. If you were the firstborn in your family, and let's say your parents divorced, like in my family when I was young, when I was 6, I took on the responsibility of being the protector, right? I was 6 years old. I couldn't protect anything, but still, I remember taking on that responsibility. And I held an incredible amount of tension in my shoulders, okay? So when people come to me and they're like, oh, I have all my pain over here in my shoulders, I do a few affirmations around releasing old obligations, old beliefs that everything falls on me. And then I'm open to new avenues of support. I allow it in from all around me, throughout every aspect of me. And as they say things like that, they start to loosen up their shoulders. So if you're in a relationship and you feel all the responsibilities on you regarding your children, if you're in a work relationship in a team and you feel like all the work is falling on you and other people aren't holding up their end of it, then that could be a reflection of old beliefs stemming back to prior stages of your life that are recreating in your life. So that's how, when we go down to those earlier stages where these beliefs form, we release them. Now we break free on so many levels of reality. It changes our life at home, our life at work. It's really amazing when we release these things. Great question. Awesome questions.
Okay, one more. Roger asked the phrase your truth and what it entails. How is that best articulated to my client, and what does it mean to guide them into touching it?
Roger, can you ask that question in a little bit, in a different way, more succinct? What do you really want to know? If you could write it in a simpler way.
Says yes. Give him a second.
Thank you. I appreciate you for doing that. There was a lot in that question, and I feel like I could have taken it in many ways, and I just
He
wanted to
says
get.
it's a confusing phrase to his clients, your truth. What does it mean to you?
Okay. The truth in a situation, to me, only becomes clear after the emotions have released. And I'm going to reflect on my first session where suicidal ideation came up in 2004. It was with a mental health professional. I was coaching her, and she was overwhelmed. And I knew it was coming. I knew what she was going to say. And then she said, I want to die. I want to end it all. And then I helped her slowly unpack it. I leaned in. Now, when that first happened, I got stressed. I released my own stress and I leaned in. And I said, please tell me more. I started using some of these prompts. And she started to express it all. And what happened was so beautiful. She was in the darkest place. And after she unpacked some of the emotions without any judgment from me or from her, everything cleared. We both felt like we were in a place of like eternal peace. And that is a gift when you help somebody face the ultimate fears and the ultimate anxieties and panics and pains and anxieties around suicidal ideation. When you get underneath it and all the emotions expressed and clear, that's when you can get to the truth. And in that moment was, I'm alive and I'm okay. So let's say your spouse brings up a ton of reaction in you, and there's like some repeat happening, right? Some repeated stress happens to all of us. The truth ain't going to happen from you verbalizing how you're feeling in the moment. You're going to get to the truth when you take a walk outside, you express all your feelings, you breathe deep and slow, you command to unlock and release all the anxiety, stress, anger, and pain from your heart, right? You call in what you want. I want to feel clarity right inside of here. I would love to feel clear. Thank you for bringing in the clarity. Thank you for aligning me with my own truth. So when the emotion's clear is when you can tap into the truth. And the truth to me is when you are emotionally clear, you're facing the stress and the words come out. The words that are taking all life involved into the highest consideration. So it's not about me versus you. When we're stressed, we're worried about my survival. When we are helping out a client or one of our children, God forbid, that's going through some suicidal ideation, our body gets stressed, we're in our own story. When we release all of that, we get clear, we can be an open vessel to allow the truth to come through and then help the other person co-regulate that's sitting next to you. Right? So the truth to me is always waiting to come through. The mastery comes through in the moment when your personality is aside, the emotions have cleared, and then the words just come through. And it's usually very simple. And when they come through, it kind of enlightens everyone around you. Like it enlightens you and the person next to you. It grounds you both, and it opens up a new bubble of awareness for you both that has multiple meanings and multiple layers to it and multiple uses of it. So I hope that roundabout answer was helpful. What a great question. But the truth to me, it needs no defense. So when you say it, there's no defense of it because the truth needs no defense. Often people will say things and they're trying to defend it and put it. The truth needs absolutely no defense. The truth only hurts if the person was living a lie. When we're living a lie, the truth hurts. A guy I used to work with many, many years ago, my first job out of college, he would say, I'm like a surgeon, I must cut in order to heal. And we would all laugh, around when he would say that. But it just reminds me, the truth is like that. The truth cuts through the illusion. So this is the next phase of the suicide prevention protocol. After we helped our client express everything, right? And now we connected with them. We encouraged them. We said, hey, do you want to do some breath work to maybe let go of some of that tension? You pick which tool you want to use. If they were suffering from anxiety, you could guide them through the anxiety freedom technique. If you feel in the moment that it's the TMR technique, we use that. Or it's just stress stopper breath work. You guide them through touching the tension, breathing deeply and slowly, and once per breath, silently saying, I'm okay. The key and the common denominator and the thread that has built all of these techniques is you reading their body language, you listening for those emotional cues, and you allowing them the space to express everything coming up. So they have completely emptied their emotional tank in their time with you. Okay? After you go through the exercise, you would just ask them, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? If the person says anything other than okay, go back to the 5 prompts, circle through the whole thing again, right? And you go through it again. And then there was something else that the conversation missed. There was something else to release, something else to talk through. If the person says okay, then you're good to proceed to close the session, right? And this is something that's so important. Healthcare professionals, whenever you encounter someone that went through some suicidal ideation, expressed it during your session, even the suicide prevention specialists that I've trained, they don't like asking this question. But this is where the rubber meets the road again. Ask this question. Once you get confident in it, it's one of the most important questions you could ever ask. How are you doing now? Do you feel a little bit calmer or clearer? Great. Any thoughts whatsoever of hurting yourself or anyone else? 99% of the time, you're going to hear no. I feel completely different right now. I feel amazing. I can't even believe what just happened. That's usually what we hear in a positive way. Then you're connecting them with services. And again, this is for the vet-to-vet suicide prevention specialists that I train. They normally work in organizations that have a ton of services for veterans. So we identify their individual needs. the services that cater to those needs. We confirm they want them. We review the options and provide contact details where we're setting them up in the system now. Now we want to set up their personal support system. We want to help them identify a family member, a friend that are really good listeners. So often people go to help from the person in their personal life that they want the help from, but can't give it. Often we want love from the person most that can't give it the way we want to receive it. And I found that the clients that I help with through suicidal ideation and severe depression, they have set up their support system wrong. They have, the ex, right? The ex-boyfriend or girlfriend that they want to love them, right? They go to them, they text them, but they don't want any part of them. So it's bringing up more pain, right? So when we swap that out with the person in their life, like their sister, their mother, their brother, their father, that can listen, that changes the dynamic of their healing and their recovery. So finding people in their support system that can listen, a team of mental health professionals, right? And phone numbers and emails handy of people that they can text and talk to regularly. And then we teach them stress stopper breath work, the 4 steps to freedom, whichever one they feel will help them the most, given their stressors in that point in their life. And then they teach it back to us, so we know they got it. Then we have a follow-up game plan. Usually we text them the next day. We text them a picture of the tool that we sent them, that we taught them. And then we have a follow-up well-being check, and then to make sure they've gotten ingrained in with the support services. I've found over the years that veterans that go through this process, the major change is when they start to volunteer, even for 4 hours a week, in a place that they're doing some good. It could be a soup kitchen, a pantry, could be anything, but they got to get outside of the 4 walls of their apartment, their house, wherever they are. They have to change their program to see that there's more to life than what they were doing, what they were doing and how they were living. Their day-to-day schedule and weekly calendar is a reflection of their depression. So when they could change their daily calendar and start showing up at a vet center for the music therapy, start going to equestrian therapy, start going to the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, start doing the yoga class, the movement class, when they change their daily and weekly calendar, that's when everything starts to change because their behaviors have changed. Super important. Any questions here?
I do not see any questions coming up, but I will give you a time check. We're about 3 to 4 minutes till the allotted time.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Okay, so typically how we train people, we do remote training. So in the tri-state area, sometimes I do in-person training. Basically, the training goals are to increase the confidence. This is a huge one. The average team that I work with, believe it or not, even the suicide prevention counselors, their confidence in handling calls that are coming in where suicidal ideation has come up in the phone call, their average confidence was a 2.5 out of 10. When we're done with 8 training sessions, it's on average goes to a 7.75 in confidence level to handle the calls. Okay, super important. Just giving people the tools and teaching them how to use it, how to use the tools. This is, you see a little testimonial from Martin Krongold. He's the COO of an amazing veterans-run organization in Brooklyn. They have 12 facilities that help a ton of veterans of all different backgrounds. But this organization is the Black Veterans for Social Justice. That was one of the first groups that I've ever trained. Amazing group. They do amazing work. We do a lot of follow-up sessions there as well. And skills development. We have reducing our own stress as mental health providers so that we don't get burnt out. The world needs you healthy, clear, emotionally sound. And this also teaches you how to release all your own tension and stress so you could be purely present while the other person is expressing their pain. And the healing that happens in those moments borders on magical. I also wanted to share this. Few lesser known factors for veteran suicide. Medication changes, huge. If there is a visitation, custody, parenting disputes, huge toxic relationships, heartache, sexual dysfunction, getting an STD, substance abuse, things like that. Huge. Also, the final wave of negative thoughts. If you or anyone in your life and your clients hear a veteran ever say, everyone's better off without me, my life was a waste, there's no point going on, that's the final wave of negative thoughts. Rick Williamson, I came across in a vet-to-vet support group a number of years ago, and he was suicidal, super angry, didn't trust anybody. He let me in for 45 minutes, and I consider him a brother. He is now a peer support specialist, helping people. He lives in Montana. Awesome guy. Love Rick. So this is our app, PTSD Keys. It predicts your stress, helps you heal trauma, and it connects local veterans with the local crisis teams that I've trained. This is our wellness platform. Every day we have movement meditation trainings in there. Some of the meditations, movement. We also have the master class in there. And we have our certifications and programs happening year-round. I am so honored to be with all of you and delighted that Summit had me here. Thank you so much, Janice, Katie, and Susie. It was a true honor to be with you all. Much love to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your amazing questions. Everyone was truly amazing to be with today.
Awesome. Thank you, Brett, so much. There was one question that came in just as you were wrapping up. You actually addressed it, but I was going to ask if you would put a link in the chat. Ruthie asked, how do we learn more about the certifications that you offer? And I believe that was on the last slide. But if you could put that in there, I think that would be
so I'm just going to put in stressisgone.com. So stressisgone.com. That's the website. And I'm actually going to show you just really quick. I'll do one last second screen share. Okay, so this is the main website. Here is the training dropdown. And then you see masterclass certifications. There's a mentorship program. Mentorship program is a year-round program. You could drop in. You get the workbook, and then I start teaching you and mentoring you each week how to use it. We have Q&A. We actually have practice sessions. I help a group called the Mothers of Veteran Suicide. So they come into our practice group, and our coaches get to do sessions with them on Zoom. And then we get to review those sessions, talk through them. This is the certifications that we offer. These, you have the intuitive trauma recovery coach, we have the meditation teacher trauma specialist, and then we have the Stress is Gone method. Our master class is also part of the training where you're basically learning the tools. The suicide prevention protocol is not inside of the master class, but I could actually show you if it'll allow me to log in there. Yep. So here's the monthly membership. I'll show you what the master class looks like super quick. The master class is 22 videos, 6 modules. It goes through the stressed upper breath work. It goes through a bunch of stuff, the anxiety freedom technique. It goes through the traumatic memory release technique, shows you how to do all this stuff. And you could write questions in there. There's a lot of communication with other coaches in there. Yeah, it's just a really cool way for us to have a bit of a community. So we're all growing and learning together. And I just want to thank everyone who asked a question today. I did my best to answer them. You asked amazing questions. Hopefully I gave you a little spark of an answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brett. And there's lots of accolades and thank yous in the chat for your time and your presentation. And you guys definitely give some shout outs to Brett because he's on vacation in Portugal giving this presentation today. So we are very honored that you took a moment out of your vacation to share this. And that just, to me, I said, this speaks volumes to, your dedication to the cause and for helping others. So that's some true passion there. And I appreciate you being here today. And I think that's all for our content. And of course, people are now saying enjoy the rest of your trip. And thank you very much for taking this time to be with us this morning. I did put the evaluation into the chat a few minutes ago. I also emailed that out to you all. So please fill out that evaluation for us. It is helpful. We love your feedback. We use your feedback. We value it. So please take a moment and do that for us. And I think that's it. I'm going to wrap us up. And thank you, Brett. Enjoy safe travels. And we look forward to learning and growing with y'all again soon. So have a good afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.
Well, so much. Bye.